When you arrive to make your inspection, it's always good to take a look at the big picture. Look at the building from the outside. What is their occupancy? Make some initial observations before walking in. Is the property maintained well? Is the parking area, accessed well? How do you get in if you have to? Is there a gated entry? Is there enough access for fire apparatus? Is there a good area for them to set up and set up their placement? Are the normal day-to-day operations at this business or facility in full swing, and are there things that might impede the safe entry or safe location of apparatus on a fire? So these are things you can be looking at before you even walk in the front door. Looking at the entrances to see how many entrances you can see. Where are the indications that the fire protection systems might be located? Are there post indicator valves outside? Are they in proper position? Are they open like they're supposed to? Or are there fire protection system pumps located outside the building? Or are there additional hydrants located inside the complex? These are all important things to be looking at even before you walk in the front door. Again, when you walk up and you're doing your initial appraisal of the building, how many stories is it? Is it 1 story, 2 story? Is there access? Are there exterior access points? Is it a flat roof? Is it a pitched roof? What does the building look like from the outside? So again, these are all important observations to make before you walk in the front door. Another thing that you want to remember is if you schedule an appointment for your inspection, be on time. Make sure that you're there not too early, but on time so that you can immediately begin your inspection when you said you would. And if you anticipated it taking a certain amount of time, that you're able to complete it in the amount of time that you've allotted for it. You want to make sure that if it goes over, that there's reasonings behind it. It might be because the inspection is going over because you found a lot of violations and you've had the, given the building owner an opportunity to correct them on the spot. That may be fine, just so long as you understand that the initial inspection was slated to take a certain amount of time, and then you want to complete it within that time frame. If it becomes necessary, you may want to postpone the inspection and give the building owner an opportunity to correct some of the deficiencies that you've identified and say, look, this isn't going so well. Let me give you a chance to correct these deficiencies. Why don't I come back next week? And then reschedule the inspection. Give the individual an opportunity to correct some of the problems if they seem to be willing to do so. When we talk about the tools that you'll bring in, oftentimes an inspector will want to include a camera. A camera is a very important piece of equipment for an inspector because it gives you an ability to digitally record with a picture, still picture, or a video any violations that you may find or note in your report. Because again, it's easy for you to go in, find a violation, and then the building owner corrects it, and now there's no longer a violation. Well, that's all good and well, but if you're intending on keeping this for a record to show that there was a violation at one point, having that photograph of that violation and containing that in that report is a very effective tool for later on. Again, this may be a recurring problem, but if you go in on certain days and they know that you're going to come to inspect and that problem's been corrected, but you go on a snap inspection and all of a sudden you find that that problem is back there, again, not having that documentation in your report could be problematic for you to be able to take enforcement activity. So again, having a camera, digital camera or video camera with you when you do your inspections, always a good idea. It's very helpful that when you go in to do an inspection that you have a checklist. Often agencies will have a specific checklist for inspectors, but if your agency doesn't have one, you can develop one on your own. Again, knowing what to look for, whether it's egress points or systems, or the alarm system test, or the functionality of the system. The operations, if there's a specific operation, do you want to go from the start to finished product, or do you want to inspect in a geographical way? Again, having a particular checklist could be advantageous to you when going in to conduct an inspection to make sure that you don't forget anything. As you go through the inspection, you can check off the different components of the inspection that you've completed. That way, when you're complete, you make sure all of your checks are in place and that you've looked at every aspect. And then you could have a even further delineation for your inspection. Each major area could have specific things that you would look at. For example, your fire protection system, you might look at the sprinkler heads to make sure that they're all functioning or not obscured. You may look at the fire pump to make sure that it's been service tested and that it meets the standard. You may look at your risers to make sure that the riser pipes are operated properly, that your inspection valves are in the right position. You may go and you may test the tamper valve to make sure that if somebody tampers with the system, shuts it off in any way, that an alarm is generated. You may want to look at the amount of time it takes for the reporting system to affect or notify. So again, these are all important aspects of your inspection. Having them on a checklist is very important because this way you won't forget something that might need to be done. Another part of the inspection is rough drawings and having sketches to add to your inspection. Oftentimes, inspections conducted in large buildings, you may be talking about different areas within inside the building to have a plot plan or a sketch or a drawing of the building layout and identify specific areas either with numeric designations or geographical locations, northeast corner, southeast corner. Those are all important aspects for keeping records on that inspection and different violations that may have been noted throughout that inspection. And once you complete the inspection, it's always good to do an interview with the building owner and go over the different findings you may have had during the inspection. Make them aware of possible violations and things that they can do to correct those violations, and let them know what the impact of those violations might be. For example, if you choose that you are going to notate violations and send particular fines to the individual for the violations itself, then you might want to advise them of the cost of those fines and what those potential problems could be if they go uncorrected. And other times you may just want to identify any of the violations and give the building owner an opportunity to make corrections. If this is a first-time offense or something that's not significant, you may give them the opportunity to correct the violation. But again, having that exit interview, you can document that and tell them, that at this time I'm making you aware that you have some violations. I'm going to afford you the opportunity to make those corrections, and I'm going to come back and do a re-inspection on this date. If I come back on this date and these inspection violations have not been corrected, at such time you may be issued a summons or you may be issued an infraction for violating these particular ordinances. So again, this is your part of your exit interview. Your exit interview could also be positive. If you found no discrepancies, you'd be able to talk to the individual about things they can do to improve their fire prevention, or things that they might want to consider, such as conducting fire exit drills, things like that. So again, it can be a positive experience, and it gives you an opportunity to leave on a positive note, because again, you can always close your interview out in a positive way. Well, listen now, we did find some violations. However, I feel if you correct these violations by my re-inspection date, you shouldn't have any problems and we should be okay. And keep in mind, these inspections are basically for the safety of your people and the safety of your customers. Always be positive in the way you present the information, and I think you'll find that the inspection will go much, much better. If in the event you're forced to do a follow-up inspection, either for correction of different problems, or you may be doing a follow-up inspection because you didn't complete all of the aspects of the inspection on the first, again, remember the same thing. Be prompt, be on time. When you get out, look around you, check your surroundings, and check the building before you walk in. Almost in the same way you did when you did the initial inspection, but look for the things that may have changed, things that may not have occurred. You had an initial appointment and they were expecting you on that day. Well, the re-inspection may either be a snap re-inspection or it may be something that was scheduled. It gives you an opportunity to see them, and be able to assess the situation with knowing that you may not be expected. So you can go in and you can assess that and evaluate, are they doing things the way they say they are, or are they just on their best behavior because I'm here? In addition to those follow-up inspections, you can look to see that, you may notice some of the inspections are not corrected, but they may be taking corrective actions. For example, some things may not be able to be fixed in a short period of time. So you may be able to understand that, they have to put in additional sprinkler heads, or they have to put in an additional system or an addition to their existing system. So this may take time because they have to get a contractor, they have to follow the permitting process. If you see that they're making motions in those areas, if they're trying to get the problem corrected, but basically meeting time constraints or possibly monetary constraints, then again, these are things that you can notate in your report, and it may not result in an infraction. It may result in establishing when this can be completed by and being able to go in and re-inspect.